It's officially the best time of year. Yes, the pumpkin spice latte is back. Even I can admit those are pretty damn good. Come on, guys. But right when the PSLs come back, that means football is back. And football is like nerds fantasy football. That's what basically fantasy football is. This time on Sin City Beat, we're going to be getting you all set for your fantasy football drafts. We're going to be breaking down the Raiders players you want on your team. Sin City Beat starts right now.
From Las Vegas, this is Sin City Beat.
All right, hello and welcome to Sin City Beat. I'm your host, Mike Davis. Thanks for joining us. Sin City Beat is the show that dissects the Vegas sports world through the eyes of the sports reporters and storytellers leading the charge. On today's show, we're gearing you up so you can win your fantasy football championship, and we're going to be talking about fantasy football through the lens of the Las Vegas Raiders. During the action today, we have Case Kiefer, assistant sports editor of the Las Vegas Sun, Q Myers from ESPN Las Vegas and host of Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio, and the great, the one and only Ian Ritchie, the owner of Full Time Fantasy. Great to have you guys here with us. Before we get into the Raiders that are going to be impacting our fantasy rosters, let's dive into a bit of strategy first. So after all, we have one of the greatest fantasy football minds with us here. So Ian, this year, fantasy football, it feels a little different. You know, quarterbacks, wide receivers, they present tremendous value. Running backs, it's a barren landscape. You know, few and far between. And tight ends, it's like deeper than I've ever seen. So what's the drafting strategy you're using this year to win your own personal leagues?
I draft around consistency. I try and draft guys that I consistently know each week are going to score me points. I'd rather score 15 points a week from somebody than 30-0, 30-0. And that way I know what I'm getting. So I really focus my draft and when I pick players on guys I think I know what they're going to do and that I can count on for 15 points a week.
And there's a lot of people that go with the mentality, you know, play to win fantasy football. You got to be a little risk adverse. So how do you craft that balance? Because to me, sometimes that boom or bust pick, that's how you win these weeks. So how do you craft that balance? What do you do, Case, when you're attacking these leagues?
I like the boom or bust because to me, I want to win the title. I don't care, like, don't give me the second or third place payout. I'm gonna, spend months doing this to double my money. No, I want the lottery mentality. So I like the big swings, and I'm just ready to listen to Ian because this is his world. We're all just visiting in it. So whatever he says, that's what I'm going to do in my draft.
Wait, I'm here to listen to both of y'all. I don't even play fantasy football, man. I'm here trying to learn from you guys on what to do so I can give advice too. So I'm here trying to get smarter. But I'm with you though. I like the boom or bust. What do they say? If you ain't first, you're last, right? So why be second or third? Let's go first, man.
And that's what a lot of it is mono, knowing the mentality, the style that these other players in your league are going to bring to the table. So if you're zigging when everybody else is zagging, that's actually not a bad plan, right, Ian?
Yeah, and create a lot of value for you. In a lot of our drafts, the wide receivers just fly off the boards in a PPR. And so you find yourself in the 4th and 5th round with a lot of value at running back that you just can't help yourself but grab.
Okay, so we're seeing a lot of, top tier bona fide wide receivers that we used to be, a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase. A lot of these guys have quarterback questions, right? And a lot of this fantasy equates to regular football. For instance, with Justin Jefferson, probably the greatest wide receiver in the NFL beyond maybe Tyreek Hill.
Right now,
one
him
of those
and Jamar
two,
Chase,
right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But there's questions at quarterback. Would you be comfortable drafting a guy like Justin Jefferson in the first round?
Man, I would take Justin Jefferson on my barbecue team, right? I mean, Justin Jefferson is the guy, right? Justin Jefferson, there's certain wide receivers, and I'm sure Ian would agree, there's certain wide receivers that make that quarterback even better. I mean, you could throw the ball in the vicinity of Justin Jefferson, he's going to make plays. So I think I'd be comfortable with taking him.
So no Kirk Cousins, we're still okay with the Darnold. What about you?
Yeah, I wish I could say who it was, but I saw someone say Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof, and I couldn't agree more. I don't care if he's the quarterback.
I said that.
I'll go with Justin Jefferson.
I didn't really say it, but I'll take it.
Some of these guys, I think it's interesting. Some of even the other top guys we even just mentioned, not the quarterback questions, but the question of training camp. CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase going through these contract disputes. So what do you do with them? I don't know. These top guys have just separated themselves so much that to me, I don't even really have an asterisk on.
Look what Devontae did last year with how many different quarterbacks did he have? Right? I mean, he had Jimmy G, he had Hoyer, he had Aiden O'Connell, and he still went over 1,000 yards, right? And had 8 touchdowns.
Guys, that's the perfect transition, because guess what? Coming up next, he's a bona fide stud, yes, but how will quarterback play impact his fantasy numbers? We're going to tell you where to draft Davante Adams right after a short break.
You're watching Sin City Beat.
All right, well, number 17 had a much better fantasy football season than you probably remember. Having to tolerate catching passes from 3 different quarterbacks last season, Davante Adams still managed to finish 10th among wide receivers in fantasy points. So the question still remains, though, where should he be getting drafted? Q, are you a big-time believer in Davante Adams this season?
I really am, and this is why. And this might be dangerous. This might be foolish, and I'm not a fantasy expert, but I'm confident in the offense that they're going to be running because he's confident in the offense that he's going to be running. He told us in training camp, he told us in mandatory minicamp, all those times he came to the podium, he said, I know this offense really well. I don't even have to look at my playbook. It's going back to what I did in Green Bay. So the quarterback's not the same as the one he had in Green Bay. Like, I don't want to get that twisted. I don't want to act like he's going to go for 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns or whatever. He's not going to do something like that. But I think he's going to be very solid because he does know this offense and he knows how to excel in it.
Ian, where is Davante going right now in most drafts, and where do you think he should be going?
He's going, in our high-stakes drafts, he's going mid-second round to late second round, behind the Marvin Harrisons and the Malik Neighbors. The upside guys that we talked about,
behind a rookie,
behind a couple
rookies.
That's right.
So rookies who haven't done anything yet, but yes, they're top 10 picks, tremendous talent. What's the mentality? Why do you think fantasy football guys are going after unproven commodities when they got a guy like Davante Adams, who, if he had a top 5, top 10 quarterback in the league, he'd be maybe a top 3 or 4 or 5 wide receiver in the league?
Right. It goes back to what you were bringing up before, which is, do you go for broke? Right? Do you go for the big upside? And if you're going for the big upside, that's why those guys are taking Harrison and Neighbors, thinking they're going to finish top 5. As top 5 receivers, top 7 receiver. And Davante, he finished 10th last year with 3 different quarterbacks. I like Minshew throwing deep to him. I like what Q just said, him understanding the offense and knowing the offense really well. That gives me a lot of confidence. Me personally, I'd be drafting Davante. I like him a lot. I'm the consistency guy. I know what I'm getting.
So we like that. So if everybody at home is watching, Ian, you were saying you would be taking Davante over the Neighbors, what about over a Chris Olave, over a Michael Pittman? What do you think about that?
For me, I like Davante a lot.
Okay.
I believe in him. He's a great player, and he's going to put up big numbers.
Why does he look like he looks like a dog this season? He looks like a dog. You look like a dog that's been in a car for a long time, and you just can't wait to get off that road trip and open the door. This guy's about to go.
All right, you say your bit, and then I want Ian to lay into you.
Oh, no.
As far as confidence, I think Davante Adams is amazing. I'm very confident in him. But fantasy, it's all about value and where they're taking. I think his ADP is like 14 to 18 right now. Some of the names in particular, I'm not taking Marvin Harrison over him, but I'm also not taking him at 14 to 18. It's great that he loves this offense. Q made some good points. But what else do we know about this offense? It's probably going to have the highest run rate in the league. That's what Luke Getsy usually does. I think his numbers are going to be a little diminished because of that. And also, I think if he had his pick of quarterback, I think he would have picked Aiden O'Connell. I think that's one of the reasons why it's surprising. I think Gardner Minshew's better. I've been Team Minshew on this show going back forever. I think it's better long term, but he's still got some kinks to work out with him. I think there's some questions to where I wouldn't be rushing to take him 14 to 18.
So give me some of the names of the guys you're taking over Davante Adams.
Well, you named Chris Olave. That's one that I think is probably below him. I think Olave's going to get even more of the target share. Look at the Raiders have a lot of mouths to feed. I know they're going to force it to Davante, but I feel like especially early, Pittman's right on the edge. I don't know about Pittman. It depends. I'm not all that confident in Richardson week to week, so I think maybe I'd go Adams over that. But Olave, I'm definitely taking
Well,
over.
it's puzzling because, Q, if you think back to last season, Davante got off to a hot start.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was scorching the league. We're like, wow, is this the second coming of Davante Adams? It was one of those types of things, and then he fell off.
Right. Well, the quarterback play fell off with the Raiders, and there was all kind of fall off for the Raiders, right? I mean, everything fell off from coaching to the quarterback play, offense. The whole team really fell off until they made that trade or that move on November 1st or October 31st.
But once AP became the coach, there was a trend where the numbers started to dip a bit.
Well, that goes to Case's point about they want to run the rock. And look, the one thing about the Raiders is they have a lot of mouths to feed. He brings up a great point. They just picked Brock Bowers. He's going to get a lot of targets as well. Michael Mayer is going to get targets. Jacoby Myers is going to get targets. Trey Tucker is probably going to get the deep shots. I mean, there are a lot of mouths to feed with the Raiders.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Ian, one of your favorite guys is Jacoby Myers. You like him a lot. Tell us why you like him so much.
Just the value of where he's being taken. I feel like he can be a 1,000-yard guy with 6 or 7 touchdowns. And where he's being taken in the 9th, 10th round, for me, I'll take that all day long. Again, it's a guy that I really feel like the consistency. He's done it through the years. And And if I can get that in those rounds and he's my third, fourth, fifth receiver, I'm happy with it.
Okay, and if we're talking PPR for everybody at home, points per reception, meaning every time you get over a catch, you're getting like a half point or a point. For a Devontae like that, I mean, you would have to even boost him up a little bit more in those leagues, right, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, we have Devontae Adams for 1,300 yards this year and 9 or 10 touchdowns. And Jacoby Myers just under that, I think 7 or so.
Okay.
So we're high on both those guys. There are definitely mouths to feed. I'm interested to see how the breakdown with Bowers and Mayer goes.
That's the one.
And we were talking about that. Case and I were talking about that before we got on air.
Well, guess what? Hang tight, because we're going to be talking Bowers in a little bit. But next, we're zipping along with the speedy Zamir White. Does he feel more like a sleeper or a bust? We'll tell you next. All right, welcome back to Sin City Beat. Well, the Raiders' backfield is definitely going to have a different look this season. The bell cow, Josh Jacobs, is now in Green Bay, and the running position is left wide open for Zamir White, a 24-year-old fourth-round pick out of Georgia. White, finally has some time to shine, but will he make the most of the opportunity? So, Case, how high are you on Zamir White?
I hate I have to be Mr. Negative here. You asked me this a month ago. I'm saying Zamir White is your sleeper. Go get him.
Yes.
I don't think he's getting enough credit for how great he was at the end of last year. I think the first Raiders running back ever to have 2 100-yard games in his first 4 starts. The thing I'm worried about that's giving me a little hold up that thinks he's probably being drafted appropriately is the Raiders' offensive line right now. They have injuries. I know Colton Miller just came back, who's kind of the linchpin of that, but he didn't have all a training camp. It usually takes the guys a little bit of time to get up to speed. They have Jackson Powers-Johnson, a presumed starter, not on that line. So I have a little bit of concern about the Raiders' offensive line that makes me not want to pay up for Zamir White. I certainly don't think he's going to be a bust, but he's not a guy that I'm really targeting. I have to get him right now.
We don't feel like knowing that AP wants to run the ball, knowing that he's going to have the opportunity, it doesn't look like Alexander Madison's going to usurp his role or anything like that. Do we have a fear of that?
I think they're going to do running back by committee.
You do?
Sure. Absolutely, yeah. And, the thing about it is, I know in fantasy football, not being a guru or anything, I know that running backs catching the ball in the backfield is a big deal as well. I don't see Zamir White doing a lot of that. I think Alexander Madison, because he knows his scheme really well, he's been in the scheme his whole career, he's kind of giving the tutorial to Zamir White on how to excel in this scheme. I think you're going to see, especially early on, a lot of 1-2 punch between the two guys, and I think you'll see Brock Bowers lined up in the backfield as well.
Well, it's fascinating because last year Alexander Madison really had the role in Minnesota, and he didn't do a lot with that opportunity.
He's not a good one.
He's not a good one.
Everyone's not Batman. Sometimes you got to be Robin.
Hey, listen, that makes a lot of sense. So, Ian, when you're hearing all this stuff, where are you guys at Full-Time Fantasy? How do you feel about a guy like Zamir White being on a fantasy football roster this year?
I agree with everything they said. I think there's a lot of concern around him. I think that Madison's going to get a lot of catches. We have it as a 55%, 35% split between the two of them. And we have, I think, Zamir White for 875 yards and 7 touchdowns, 6-7 touchdowns.
So a guy like that, he shouldn't be your RB1 on a fantasy roster, right?
No.
More like if he's your 2, though, you're comfortable with that.
Not me. I mean, I'd be better off if he was my 3 or 4. I'd feel a lot better about that. Just on a week-to-week basis, I'm just not sure he's going to get me my 15 points I'm looking for. If he's not getting catches out of the backfield, and Madison is getting those catches, which I do believe he will. He understands his scheme really well. He's really good in that role. Then I think he's going to stay in that role. And I just see Zamir White pounding that ball and not getting catches.
Now, if there's a lot of trends in the NFL where there's not a lot of bell cow backs like the Josh Jacobs and Green Bay, who I'm big on this year, there's a lot more of these running back by committee. So if you're not comfortable having Zamir White as your 2 and you're leaning more into wide receivers, how are you drafting your teams from a bird's eye view strategy-wise? Because if he's not a number 2, you got to be taking a lot of good running backs, right?
Yeah, we're taking, I'm looking at guys like James Cook and Kenneth Walker in that 4th, 5th round, guys that I really think that are going to put up better numbers. I think the situation in Seattle for Kenneth Walker is really good. They have a new offensive coordinator who came from the University of Washington.
Right.
He likes to run the ball. They're going to use him a lot more. He's done a great job as pass blocking, and so they're going to use him on 3rd down more. So I think that's a good situation.
Okay.
I think James Cook's in a good situation in Buffalo with them losing so much of their offense from last year.
So a lot of these middle-of-the-road guys you like, Case, where are you at with your strategy and thinking about these running backs? Because it's a barren landscape.
I might have been.
Why are you so fired up, man?
I love talking about this stuff. I might have been gritting my teeth last second. Now I'm smiling because I know Ian knows a lot more than me, and we're on the same page.
Really?
James Cook, especially, is one guy I love. Look at the run rates last year when they had a new offensive coordinator change. I think he has all the talent in the world. And a big thing is, in the last several years, I was going with the 0 running back strategy. I was loading up on the wide receivers. I feel like now, as the analytics have gotten better and better, the more people know it. Now I feel like too many people are doing it. I feel like the values are more split. I more want a balanced build, and I think I'm a little bit higher on running backs than I have been in the last few years. I like some of those middle guys.
Okay, so the Aaron Jones, the Josh Jacobs, the James Cooks, all those guys. What about DeAndre Swift? Do we like him in Chicago this year? How do you feel about him?
There's a lot of weapons in Chicago. A lot of weapons
you
in
like
Chicago.
him? What about you, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I like Swift. I mean, if you ask me, in that area, there's a Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
There's guys that are going to get a lot of carries in that same area, and I like those guys. I mean, I'll take them. I know that the Charger situation's a little goofy with Gus and Dobbins, so I'm not really going that deep. But I think, about the 7th, 8th round, I'm pretty comfortable with.
You know who I like a lot is Joe Mixon in Houston.
Yeah.
I think nobody's talking about that.
Right.
I think that's a sneaky good move, and they didn't have a really good solid run game last season. I think Mixon's going to be solid.
Yeah, I was saying, to agree with you. I think I'm slightly selling on Swift, just so we have it correct on record.
So you're selling on Swift, where we like Mixon. A lot of stuff going on here, ladies and gentlemen. But listen, tight end, we got a tip for you, okay? If Brock Bowers is heading towards you, you're going to probably want to move out of the way, because this stud, he's a rookie, and he's a promising target for fantasy owners and for Gardner Minshew. Now, does he have top 10 potential, top 5 potential in that tight end slot? We're going to break it down after these words. All right, so sure, the Raiders may have missed out on rookie quarterbacks during this year's draft, but they didn't miss on Brock Bowers when they selected him 13th overall, a 2-time national champion, 3-time All-American. Bowers holds the single-season record at Georgia for receiving touchdowns in a single season. He also projects to find the end zone a lot on the next level, but how successful will his rookie campaign be? Ian, tight end, it's deep this year. We got Sam Laporta, we got Taylor Swift's boyfriend, a ton of good options out there. But how much can Bowers bust out? Is this going to be the season? I mean, because a lot of times it's like, listen, a guy like Brock Bowers, we know he's going to be good, but is it this year he's going to bust out, or is it going to be next year he's going to bust out?
Right.
Where do you have him ranked?
Yeah, he's getting drafted in our drafts about the 9th or 10th round. He's getting drafted as a backup tight end for a lot of people, their second guy.
Really?
And so he'll be used as their bye week, and if he pulls through and it starts doing well, they might elevate him to their starter. But he's being taken about the 9th round for us. We were high on Michael Mayer last year, and he didn't really come through.
Yeah.
But we think that he's going to see some balls too, and that he's going to see more balls than a lot of people think.
See, I'm so excited about this Brock Bowers guy. Tell us how you think the Raiders are going to be using him. How do you feel about this?
They're going to use him every way they can. They're going to get the ball in his hands any way possible. They'll line him up in the backfield, in the slot, out wide.
A tight end in the backfield.
Absolutely. Line him up in the kind of the fullback format, because they don't have a fullback on the roster. So you're going to see him in that role. You're going to see him get the ball jet sweeps. They know that this dude is the dude, right? Antonio Pierce has said, yeah, he can block, but we don't anticipate him having to do that too much, right? We got Michael Mayer for that. So I like the 1-2 punch. I'm sure Case can agree that for just seeing him in camp and even in practices, the 1-2 punch looks great.
Yeah, he said that, though, because he actually sprung a great block on Max Crosby. As funny as it is. He really can do everything. I know you don't care about blocking if you're in fantasy, but the jet sweeps, they were running a lot of that for him in training camp. I do think they're going to be very creative in how they get him the ball, which is a plus for fantasy. I still just have that nagging thing, like we talked about at the other segment. People get so seduced by the shiny new toy, and I feel like we take rookies a little too high. I think he's being drafted in an appropriate range, but I kind of have a push and a pull with him of where you should take him.
That's what makes fantasy football so much fun. We want to be seduced, Case. That's what it's all about.
It's about the tease.
I'm liking everything about this Brock Bowers. Another guy we got to talk a little bit about before we get into the rest of the Titans. I just have one more question on Brock. Do we think the Brock Devontae stack, do we like that for some of our teams? Do we think Brock is going to help Devontae, or is that going to hurt Devontae, and vice versa?
I think it's going to help him. I think it really is, because Devontae gets all the attention. They cannot ignore Brock Bowers. They cannot ignore him. So he's going to get more one-on-one coverage than Devontae's probably seen since he's been with the Raiders. So I think it helps Devontae. I think it helps Brock Bowers. I really do. I think it opens it up for everybody.
I love that. I agree. Okay, let's do a quick rundown on tight ends real quickly before we wrap up. So Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce. He's been a stud for years. Ian, this guy's been taken in the first round, but he's dipping as of currently. Do you still have Sam Laporta ahead of him rather than Travis Kelce? How do you feel about the top tier guys and the Mark Andrews? Because it's a little different this year.
It's definitely different, especially for Kelce. An example I'll give you is in the ESPN ADPs in the home leagues, he's going number 20. with the high stakes guys, the best players in the world, he's going number 45.
Wow.
He had a down year last year. They have more offensive weapons this year.
Right. Worthy.
He fell in love.
Yeah.
He fell in love. See what happens?
Yeah.
Just say no to love.
The curse.
Hollywood Brown. So there's a lot more mouths to feed there. So guys like that, Laporta, Mark Andrews, how do you feel? Do you want to be in on that, or would you rather take a step back and get the Dalton Kincaids? Because to me, Brock Bowers could do the Dalton Kincaid thing. We saw what he did last year. A lot of promise, a Vegas local kid. This is the year that Dalton Kincaid could bust out. That's how I'm kind of thinking.
Especially
how are you?
Diggs.
Exactly.
Right.
So how are you feeling about tight end in general? Are you going to wait and go for more of that middle tier, or are you going to try to grab the Andrews, the Kelsey, the Laporta?
I'm waiting at tight end. I really am. I've waited at tight end. I really like Luke Musgrave. So there's
Really?
one of my sleepers. He's going 13th, 14th round for us.
Rookie last year with Green Bay. He looked good. He got hurt.
That's
but
right.
we like him.
We like him a lot. Yeah, I like him a lot in that offense. I know Kraft got a lot of action when he got hurt last year at Green Bay, and they played a little 2 tight end set. But I like Luke Musgrave a lot. I've been taking a lot of Luke Musgrave in the 13th and 14th rounds, and I've been trying to take a guy a little earlier than that too, and so I'm not sold out on him. And I've been taking Dalton Kincaid a lot. I've been taking Dalton Schultz a decent amount.
And Ferguson, not bad.
Yeah, I took a little bit of Ferguson, and then honestly, I've avoided Dallas Goedert.
Oh, damn. Oh, great. That's my guy in Philly. I'm not loving that. But real quickly, Kyle Pitts. Every fantasy player knows this. It's the ex-girlfriend. You know she's going to cheat on you. You know she's not going to match your energy, but you still go back to her. That's what Kyle Pitts is for fantasy owners. New situation, new quarterback, no Desmond Ridder. We got 30 seconds. Kirk Cousins is the QB there. Are you going to draft Kyle Pitts at all? Are you going back to the X?
That one night.
I know,
that one night is special. Buy low.
She's going to screw you in the end, you think, but you're hoping she might be the dream girl.
That's right.
You're getting a discount.
He is a much lower buy this year, which is helpful, and Kirk Cousins always does like to throw the tight end, which makes it very tempting to go back to the well. He's stung me so many times, it's tough.
There you go, Kyle Pitts. Listen, Ian Ritchie, full-time fantasy, Case Kiefer, and the great Q Myers, thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck on your fantasy draft day.